A 60-watt COB LED is pretty much a filmmaker's first serious light. Now this Aputure light is also a 60 watt. However, if you take a look at this front special optic, it actually gets it closer to about a 150 watt with no hotspot. If you have no idea why that's important, then stick around because you're going to want to learn why you want the Aputure LS60d in your kit. Hey, what's going on everybody? Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker here, where the answers comes first, the reasons come last, but we're constantly and always still learning. I want to thank Pergear for sending me out this Aputure LS60d in for review. It's a really awesome light, and without further ado, let's get started. Coming in at $370, you get everything you need with this light. You get an NPF battery caddy for portable shoots. You can use one battery for half power, or you can use two batteries for full power. Now, if you have a V-mount battery, Aputure does supply you with a D-tap cable, which is awesome. Now, these cables are weatherproof, which is great if you suddenly get rained on when you are using this light outside. We also get a barn door attachment that lets us cut the light to taste. Now, it's not going to give you the cleanest cut in the world, but what it is more than capable of doing is trying to flag the light from spilling everywhere in the room. Here is a quick demo of the thinnest strip of light you can achieve with this light. Now, I'm happy to say that Aputure also supplies you with a Bowens mount adapter, and because everything is made out of metal, including the RE rosette locks on the yoke, I was able to actually mount my 47-inch softbox horizontally with no problem. And last but not least, all of this fits neatly in their traveling case. Now on the back, we have a very simple button layout and info screen. We can get an idea of how much battery we have left based on our brightness settings, and the brightness does move in 1% increments all the way down to 1%, which is great. Now on the bottom, we have a flood and spot control dial to shape the light circle. We can get anywhere from 30 degrees to 90 degrees of light. The menu structure is very straightforward. You can access your dimming curves, fan settings, Bluetooth settings for your Sidus link, and of course your classic FX modes. Without further ado, let's get to the tests and see how this light actually performs. When it comes to the light output from 6 feet away, as always, my camera settings are up top, this 60 watt paired with its special optics gives a whopping 2700 lux, which is just a little over about a 150 watt COB LED that I've tested on this channel. When you spot it down, it gets even more intense like a hyper reflector. On the color checker test, the LS60d does as expected. Skin tones are right where they need to be, and all the other color chips are doing quite well. The LS60d does have a fan inside with various modes, so let's test to see how loud they are from 3 feet and 6 feet away. Now pay special attention to the 6 feet test because this is pretty much the closest simulation you will get when you are using softboxes or even shooting through diffusion curtains. For the smart fan mode, I left the light on for an hour so that it can get nice and hot to see how loud the fan will actually go. When it comes to battery life, if you have two really decent generic NPF batteries, you can see somewhere around 40 minutes of operation from smart fan to high fan. Now, if you're wondering why the high fan beats out the smart fan, it's because when LED chips are cooled efficiently, it draws less power to operate. Now, if you have two bad generic batteries like I used in this red box over here, they won't sustain more than 10 minutes. The funny thing is that it's mainly the battery's fault, because you can actually turn the light right back on and it'll go on for another 14 minutes and another 14 minutes before it auto shuts off. When it comes to cheap generic NPF batteries, this lack of consistency is the price you pay when accounting for LED lights specifically. Now, generic V-mount batteries, on the other hand, do much better as they can sustain voltage for longer periods of time. When we check the optical quality of this light, we see that the optics produce a nice flat circle without a major hotspot like you see on some COB LED lights. Because of the nature of this light, if you use a softbox, you will get a hotspot right in the middle. Now, some people may prefer to shoot through a diffusion curtain because of this. While the diffusion curtain is definitely more soft, the softbox isn't that bad. You'll just get a little bit more contrast on the dark side. Now, there are softboxes that can eliminate the hotspot, and I will tell you more about that in a couple minutes. So what's the bottom line here? Should you get the Aputure LS60d in your kit? It's a definite yes from me, and here's why. It's not that big of a light, it doesn't use up that much power, and for the power that it does use, it punches more than 2 times the amount of output than it should. And with that special optic in the front, being able to focus the light into one area without a hotspot, if you're trying to diffuse something or you're trying to bounce something back, this is really powerful to get the kind of looks you want without much hassle. And if you don't know why that is, let me give you an example. Think of this LS60D like it's a laser pen. If you point it at a wall, you just see a red dot. It doesn't suddenly turn the entire room red as the light goes everywhere else. It's highly directional. Whereas if you take a look at these other COB LED lights that don't have the optic in the front, if you turn it on, the light scatters everywhere that it's pointed at, which means if I'm in this room right now, the light could go up and towards the ceiling, whatever light is there, and it'll bounce into the scene. It could hit a different wall, something like that, and then it's really hard to just get the look you want immediately. You have to bring some modifiers, specifically some big old flags. And these flags are going to make sure the light doesn't go towards the ceiling, doesn't go towards the side and an opposite wall, and they're usually quite big depending on your setup with a diffusion curtain. Now with this Aputure LS60D, because it's already focused, it's like a laser. The light up here outside of the beam, it's not going to hit the wall at full capacity and intensity and rain into my scene. It won't do that. It's just going to go right at the diffusion curtain, and that's all you really need. However, if you do decide that, hey, I need some extra, flags or whatever to cut the light, well, that's what the barn doors are for. You can just use those barn doors, shape the light how you want, and have it hit that diffusion curtain without adding additional lights in the scene. For people, especially independent filmmakers that are going to be controlling every aspect of their light, especially when they're inside a small room like this, trying to get the best cinematic look possible, this light pretty much does it all for you without bringing a whole bunch of grip gear. Now, I know you guys are not necessarily going to be doing cinematic, like big diffusion curtain setups all the time. Sometimes it doesn't call for that. Sometimes you just need a softbox. Well, with the Bones adapter, it already comes in the kit, so you're ready to go. And Aputure, of course, has their own set of Bowen softboxes, but if you're thinking about third-party ones, well, the first thing is my Lal-Fos 47-inch softbox is able to be held by the yoke of this light because of the Ari Rose locks on the yoke, which is awesome. But you'll see here that there is a hotspot in the middle, kind of expected because of how the light is designed. But if you take a look at the comparison between shooting a diffusion curtain versus shooting through a softbox with a hotspot in the middle, yes, you're going to get less softness, as you can see more shadow on my dark side, but it's still soft technically speaking. Now, there are other softboxes out there if you want to go this route, specifically ones that have a deflection disc right in the middle. So what happens here is, because of this light, the spot beam, if you will, is going to hit the deflection disc. The deflection disc is going to basically bounce all the light to the back of the softbox, and then from there it's going to shoot forward in a very wide pattern. And in this case, in theory, it should illuminate the entire front surface quite evenly, and therefore giving you the diffused look that you want with the softbox. I love that there are different power options when it comes to operating this light. You can either go through an AC wall outlet, you can do 2 MPF batteries, or you can do a Sony V-mount battery. Now, for my filmmakers out there that are kind of on a budget, like me, you probably want to go the budget V-mount battery route versus the budget MPF battery route. And that's simply because budget MPF batteries don't have a very strong battery management system. I had 2 different models of MPF batteries made by the exact same company, but about 3 years apart in production. The old batteries had much better cells and a better battery management chip, so I was actually able to operate the light much longer. The newer ones, however, couldn't last more than 30 minutes. So if you're going to go battery route, I would say get yourself V-mount batteries instead. Last but not least, and this is kind of a bonus here, it's a weather resistant light when you're on battery power. The cables that come out of it are waterproof and weatherproof for the most part. And if you take a look at the internals of how this thing is built, everything is sealed and compartmentalized inside with the heat sinks coming out. So there's really no electrical PCB boards or anything that's exposed. So whether it's going to be some rain, some snow, what have you, if you are using this light, you'll be fine and you can still continue shooting. So which type of filmmaker do I recommend this light for? Pretty much every filmmaker. Doesn't matter if you're a YouTuber, wedding, corporate, narrative film specifically, music videos, documentaries. This light is going to be able to do pretty much whatever you want to do, and you're going to have full control of it straight out of the case that they give you. Those barn doors, the Bowens mount, the fact that you don't need a reflector and you can just get this really nice clean circle. This is going to help you a lot in terms of controlling your scene and controlling your light. But I know you guys are thinking, but why would I want to spend $370 for a 60 watt COB LED light? Well, at this point, like I said, it's really not a 60 watt COB LED light. It's much closer to a 150 watt or higher. And because of that, it's actually technically cheaper than other 150 watt COB LEDs out there. But wait, you guys might be saying, why don't I just get a 100 watt or a 200 watt COB LED light, which are cheaper, and just use the reflector and be on my merry way? You can do that, but just know that the reflectors are not the same as the optics, because the reflectors have a bunch of little surface planes, and they focus the light down the center, and you end up getting a very big hotspot, versus the optics, it's focused in like a magnifying glass, and you don't really get that hotspot. Now, depending on how you shoot it through a diffusion curtain, that hotspot could make like someone's cheek or this part really, really bright versus having a very good natural fall off. And so in my opinion, the Aputure LS60d is still better in this front. For you to get something similar, you would have to basically purchase a spotlight attachment of somehow, or some sort of Fresnel lens that can work with the light to try to even it out and aim it forward. In which case it could cost anything from like an extra $100 to a couple $100, at which point you've already gotten to the price point of the LS60d. And not to mention, when you have all those optics in the front, there's no Bowens mount in the front again for you to get for you to use a softbox. You'll just have to use the 100 or 200 watt the way it is, in which case that's fine. But just know that the versatility of the LS60d is that it can do all of that without extra paying for any accessories, because everything is already packed into that one kit. So that is my reasoning why you should really look into the Aputure LS60d as possibly one of the main key lights in your system. And hey, that is it for this video, everybody. If this has been helpful, I do have some affiliated purchase links down below. It costs nothing extra to you, but should you use them, it does directly help support this channel so I can spend more time testing and reviewing more products for you. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave it down below. I will get to them as fast as I can. And until then, like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you guys in the next one.